4 verses. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Bada of the Kapilani, daughter of a Brahmin of the Kosias, at Sagala, wife of Papali Kasapa of Mahatata, foremost of those Teris who could remember past lives, a distinguished preacher. Now she was born in the time of Padamutara Buddha, in a clansman's house at Hansavati. Come to years of discretion, she heard the master preach, and saw him assign a bhikkhuni the first rank among those who could recall previous lives. Because of that she made her resolve, wishing that she, too, might acquire such a rank. Working merit all her life, she was reborn, when no Buddha had arisen, in a clansman's house at Benares, and in due course married. Then one day a quarrel arose between her and her sister-in-law. And the latter having given food to a silent Buddha, Bada thought, she will win glory for this, and taking the bowl from his hand, she filled it with mud instead of food. The people said, "Foolish woman! What has the silent Buddha done to offend you?" And she, ashamed of herself, took back the bowl, emptied and scrubbed it with scented powder, filled it with the 4 sweet foods, and sprinkled it on the top with ghee of the color of a lotus calyx. Handing it back, shining, to the silent Buddha, she registered a prayer. "May I have a shining body like this bowl." Single quote. After many fortunate rebirths, she was reborn, in the time of Kasapa Buddha, at Benares, as the daughter of a wealthy millionaire. But by the fruition of her previous karma her body was of evil odor, and she was repulsive to others. Much troubled by that, she had her ornaments made into an ingot of gold, and placed it in the Buddha's shrine, doing reverence with her hands full of lotuses. By that act her body, even in that birth, became fragrant and sweet. As a beloved wife she did good all her life, was reborn in heaven to celestial joys, and at length took birth as the daughter of the king of Benares. There she lived gloriously, serving to silent Buddhas. When they passed away she was greatly troubled, and renounced the world for ascetic practices. Dwelling in groves, she practiced jhana, and was reborn in the Brahma heavens, and from there into the family of a Brahmin of the Kosya clan at Sagala. Reared in great state, she was wedded to the young noble Papali at the village of Mahatita. When he renounced the world she handed over her great wealth to her relatives that she too might go forth into renunciation. And she dwelt 5 years in the nuns' monastery, after which she was ordained by great Pajapati the Gotami, head of nuns' order and the sister and co-wife of the Buddha's departed mother. Establishing in insight meditation, she soon won arahantship. And then she became an expert in knowledge of her past lives. Through the abundant force of her resolve, and was in this ranked first by the master when, seated in the Jetavana grove among the company of Aryans, he classified the bhikkhunis. One day she broke forth in a hymn, remembering all that she had been through, accompanied by praise of the virtues of the great elder Kasapa, thus: Son of the Buddha and his heir is he. Great Kasapa, master of self, serene. The vision of far, bygone days is his. Yes, heaven and hell no secrets hold for him. Death too, of rebirth, has he won striving. A saint is he of mystic knowledge profound. By the 3 arms of learning, thrice knowledgeable, he is called, and called Brahman. She too, Bada the Kapilan thrice wise, and victor over death and birth is she, bears to this end her last incarnate frame, for she has conquered Mara and his host. We both have seen, both he and I, the woe and pity of the world, and have gone forth. We both are arahants with selves well tamed. Calm are we both, Ours is Nibbana now. Chapter 5. 5 verses. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Vadesi, of family unknown, nurse to foster mother of Buddha, great Pajapati Gotami. She, too, having lived in the past as the previous Teres, was, in this Buddha era, reborn in the town of Devadaha, and became the nurse of great Pajapati the Gotami. Buddha's foster mother as well as head of Nuns order. Her name was Vadesi, but the name of her family has not been handed down. When Pajapati Gotami renounced the world she did the same. But for 25 years she was harassed by the lusts of the senses. Winning no concentration of mind even for a moment, and used to weep about her state with outstretched arms, till at length she heard Dharmadina preaching the Dharma. Then, with her mind diverted from the senses, she fell to practicing meditative exercises, and in no long time acquired the 6 powers of intuition profound. And, looking back at her attainment, she blissfully said thus: For 25 years since I was ordained, not for one moment could my mind attain the blessedness of calm serenity. No peace of mind I found. My every thought was soaked in the lowly intoxication of sense desire. With outstretched arms and shedding futile tears, as a wretched woman, I went to my cell. Then she to this poor bhikkhuni drew near, who was my foster mother in the faith. She taught to me the Dharma, in which I learnt the factors, organs, bases of this self, impermanent compound. Hearing her words, beside her I sat down to meditate. And now I know the days of the long past, and clearly shines in me the eye celestial. I know the thoughts of other minds, and hear with sublime sense the sound of things indescribable. Magical powers I exercise, and all the deadly desires that poisoned every thought are cleansed away. A living truth for me is this 6 types of powers, and the Buddha's discipline is fulfilled. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Vimala, daughter of a harlot of Vesali, ex-harlot. She too, having lived in the past as the previous Teres, was born, in this Buddha era, at Vesali as the daughter of a certain woman who earned her living by her beauty. Her name was Vimala. When she was grown up, and was imagining vicious things, she saw one day the venerable Mahamoggallana going about Vesali for alms, and feeling attracted of him, she went to his dwelling and tried to entice him. Some say she was instigated to do so by those of other sects. The elder rebuked her inappropriate behavior and admonished her, as may be read in the hymns of the monks. And she was filled with shame and self-criticism, and became a believer and lay follower. Later she entered the order, and with hard work and striving because the root of attainment was in her, not long after that she won arahantship. From that time on, looking back at her gain, she blissfully said thus: How I was once proud, incensed with the bloom of my beauty, vain of my perfect form, my fame and success amidst the people, filled with the pride of my youth, unknowing the truth and unheeding. Lo, I made my body, boldly decorated, deftly painted, spoke to the boys, while I at the door of the harlots stood, like a clever hunter, weaving his snares, ever watchful. Yes, I bared without shame my body and wealth of adorning. Many wiles I caused, devouring the virtue of many. Today with shaven head, wrapped in my robe, I go forth on my daily alms for food. And beneath the spreading branches of forest tree, I sit, and gain the second jhana's rapture. where reasonings cease. Now all the evil bonds that enslave gods and men both are fully torn apart and cut away. Cleansed are the desires that intoxicated me. Calm and content I know Nibbana's peace. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sia, niece of Army General Sia, of Versailles. She too, faring in the past as the previous Teres, was in this Buddha era born at Versailles as the daughter of General Sia's sister. And, being named after her maternal uncle, she was called Sia. Come to years of discretion, she heard the master one day teaching the Dharma to the general, and, becoming a believer, gained her parents' consent to enter the order. When she strove in insight meditation, she was unable to prevent her mind from running on objects of external charm. Harassed thus for 7 years, she concluded, "How shall I extricate myself from this evil living? I will die." And, taking a noose, she hung it round the branch of a tree, and, fastening it round her neck, with all the cumulative effect of former efforts, she impelled her mind in insight meditation. Then to her, who was really come to her last birth. At that very moment, through her knowledge attaining maturity, insight grew within, and she won arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dharma in true form and in meaning. So, loosening the rope from her neck, she turned back again. Established as an arahant, she blissfully said thus: "Distracted, harassed by desires of sense, having unrighteous thoughts, stung and inflated by the memories of former days, over which I lacked control, corrupting canker spreading over my mind, I followed heedless dreams of happiness, and got no equanimity to my mind, all given over to likings of senses. So did I live for 7 weary years. In misery of unrest I, wretched, found no happiness by day or night, so took a rope and plunged into the wood. Better for me a friendly gallows tree. I'll live again the low life of the world." Single quote. Strong was the noose I made, and on a branch I bound the rope and flung it round my neck. When my mind was set at liberty. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sundari Nanda, daughter of great Pajapati Gotami of the Sakyan Gotamas, of Kapilavastu, younger sister to the Buddha. She, verily, was born, in the time of Padamuttara Buddha, in the town of Hansavati. And when she was come to years of discretion, she heard the master preaching, and assigning a certain bhikkhuni the foremost place in meditative power. Vowing that she would gain that rank, she went on doing good. After eons upon eons of rebirth among gods and men, she took birth in this Buddha epoch in the reigning family of the Sakyas. Named Nanda, she became known as Beautiful Nanda. And when our Bhagwa had acquired all knowledge, had gone to Kapilavathu, and caused the princes Nanda and Rahula to join the order. When King Suddhodana died, and the great Pajapati, foster mother and the sister and co-wife of the Buddha's departed mother, entered the order, then Nanda thought, "My elder brother has renounced the heritage of empire, has renounced the world, and is become a Buddha, a great man. His son too, Rahula, has renounced the world, so has my brother, Nanda, my mother, Mahapajapati, and my sister, Rahula's mother. But I now, what shall I do at home? I will renounce the world." Thus she went forth, not from faith, but from love of her relatives. And thus, even after her renunciation, she was intoxicated with her beauty, and would not go into the master's presence, otherwise he should rebuke her. But it happened with her even as with Teri Abarupa Nanda, with this difference. When she saw the female shape conjured up by the master growing gradually aged, her mind, intent on the impermanence and suffering of life, turned to meditative discipline. And the master, seeing that, taught her suitable doctrine, thus: Look, Nanda, the foul compound, diseased. Impure it is. Compel your mind to understand, and concentrate with the one-pointed mind. As with this body, so with your. As with your beauty, so with this thus shall it be. With this bad-smelling, offensive shape, in which the foolish only take delight. So look you on it day and night with mind, unmovingly resolute, alone, by divine understanding, freed from the mirage of beauty, you do gain vision serene. Then she, heeding the teaching, summoned up wisdom and stood firm in the fruition of the first path. And, to give her an exercise for higher progress, he taught her, saying, Nanda, there is in this body not even the smallest essence. It is but a heap of bones smeared with flesh and blood under the form of decay and death. As it is said in the Dhammapada, have made a citadel of bones smeared with flesh and blood, wherever reign decay and death, and where conceit and fraud is stored. Then she, as he finished, attained arahantship. And when she pondered on her victory, she blissfully said in the Master's words, and added, I, even I, have seen, inside and out, this body as in truth it really is. Who tried to know the what and why of it with unfaltering zeal and eagerness. Now I am freed from bodies, and all my consciousness is passion-free, keen without sloth, detached, calm and serene. I taste Nibbana's peace. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Nanduttara, daughter of a Brahmin of Kamasadhamma, ex-Jain, pupil of the great Moggallana. She, too, faring in the past as the aforementioned Teres, was, in this Buddha age, born in the kingdom of the curse at the town of Kamasadhamma, in a Brahmin family. And when she had learnt from some of them their arts and sciences, she entered the order of the Naganthas, and, as a renowned speaker, took her rose apple tree branch, like Bada curly hair, and toured about the plain of India. Thus she met Maha Moggallana the elder, and in debate suffered defeat. She upon that listened to his advice, entered the order, and not long after attained arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the teaching and meaning of the Dharma. And meditating on her victory, she blissfully said thus: Fire and the moon, the sun and the gods, I once was striving to worship. I used to go to great assembly on river banks, in the waters for the bathing rites. Many observances I took upon me, for I shaved one half my head, nor laid me down to rest except on the earth, nor ever broke my fast at close of day. I had delight in decorating myself with gems and ornaments, etc. I administered baths, ointments and massage to this body, moved by lusts of senses. Then found I faith, became ordained, I went into the ascetic life. For I have seen the body as it really is, and lusts of sense can never return now. All rebirth-causing factors were broken well. Every wish and yearning has gone away. All that had tied me was loosened. Calmed I am from sins, and now ever conscious. Therigatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Mittakali, daughter of a Brahmin of Kamasadhamma. She, too, faring in the past as the aforementioned Teres, was, in this Buddha era, born at the town of Kamasadhamma in the kingdom of the curse, in a Brahmin's family. Come to years of discretion, she gained faith by hearing the teaching of the great discourse on the applications of mindfulness, and entered the order of bhikkhunis. For 7 years she was liable to a fondness for gifts and honors, and, while doing the duties of a recluse, she was quarrelsome now and again. Later on, while she was intellectually thinking and becoming conscious about self, she was established in insight meditation, and upon that soon won arahantship, together with thorough grasp of the Dharma in true form and in meaning. Looking back at her victory, she blissfully said thus: "Leaving my home through call of faith, I sought the homeless ascetic life, and dwelt with eye intent on offerings from the faithful and the praise of this one and the gratitude of that. The path of insight I neglected, turned from highest good to follow baser ends. I lay enthralled to worldly vice, and did nothing to win the goal of my high teaching. But anguish crept upon me when I pondered in my little cell. How have I come into this evil road? Into the power of craving have I strayed. Brief is the span of life yet left to me. Old age, disease, hang imminent to crush. Now, before this body perishes and dissolves, swift let me be, no time have I for sloth. And meditating, as they really are, the aggregates of life that come and go, I rose up with mind freed. For me the Buddha's discipline is fulfilled." Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sakula, or Pakula, a Brahmin matron of Savathi, foremost of the Teris who had the faculty of the eye celestial. Now she, at the time when Padamutara was Buddha, came to birth at Hansavati as the daughter of King Ananda and half-sister of the Master, and was named Nanda. One day she sat listening to the Master, and hearing him place a bhikkhuni at the top of those who had the faculty of the heavenly eye, she vowed that this rank should one day be hers. And after many good works and subsequent happy rebirths, she came to being on earth when Kassapa was Buddha, as a Brahmani, and renounced the world as an ascetic, vowed to a solitary life. One day she offered her alms at the Master's shrine, making a lamp offering all night long. Reborn in the heaven of the 33 gods, she became possessed of the heavenly eye. And, when this Buddha was living, she was born a Brahmani at Savathi, and called Pakula. Assisting at the Master's acceptance of the gift of the Jetavana grove, she became a believer. And, later on, convinced by the preaching of an Arahant monk, she grew self-conscious, entered the order, strove and struggled in insight meditation, and soon won arahantship. From that time on, in consequence of her vow, she accumulated skill in the heavenly sight, and was assigned foremost place in that by the Master. And looking back at that, thrilled with gladness, she blissfully said thus: "While yet I dwelt as matron in the house, I heard a monk explaining the Dharma. I saw that Dharma, the pure, the passionless path to Nibbana, beyond decease and rebirth. Because of that I left my daughter, left my son. I left my treasures and my stores of grain. I called for robes and razors, shaved my hair, and ordained myself into the homeless ascetic life. And first as novice, virtuous and keen to cultivate the upward mounting way, I cast out wants and with it all ill will. And after that, one by one, the deadly desires. Then to the bhikkhuni of ripening power, arose in a vision memories of past lives. Clear, holy divine eye was obtained by persistent exercise. Act, speech and thought I saw as not myself, children of cause and effect, fleeting, impermanent. And now, with every poisonous desire cast out, Calmed and serene, I see Nibbana's peace. Theragatha. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sona, Bahuputaka, daughter of a clansman of Savathi, foremost of the Teres who were eminent in strenuous will. She, too, was born at the time when Padamutara was Buddha, at Hansavati, in a clansman's family. One day she sat listening to the master, and hearing him place a bhikkhuni at the top of those distinguished for capacity of effort, she vowed that this rank should one day be hers. And after many happy rebirths, she came to being, when this Buddha lived, in a clansman's family at Savathi. She became, when married, the mother of 10 sons and daughters, and was known as the many offspringed, when her husband renounced.